The central galactic distribution station buzzed with the symphony of diverse species, each sound layered over one another like an alien orchestra. The metallic tang of the air was intoxicating, mixed with a faint whiff of synthetic oil and the leftovers sent from the food court, an aroma that always reminded Maria Santos of her favorite dish from the Earth-based restaurant down the hall, spicy tofu burritos. She inhaled deeply, letting the smell ground her amid the controlled chaos of the station. Maria was a janitor, her uniform a simple blue jumpsuit that often bore the marks of her labor. It was a job that, on the surface, seemed mundane in this technological marvel, but she had grown to find beauty in the details. Each day was filled with the unexpected, whether it was discovering peculiar trash left by alien visitors or witnessing interspecies interactions that made her laugh. The station served as a hub for countless alien races, creating a tapestry of cultures that fascinated her. But today felt different. As she pushed her cleaning cart down a corridor bathed in neon lights, she noticed a flickering light emanating from a maintenance door that she had never seen unlocked before. Curiosity ignited within her, a dangerous impulse in a place where she was taught to follow protocol and avoid areas beyond her jurisdiction. "Just a quick peek," she muttered, glancing around to make sure no superiors were watching. Pushing the door ajar, she peered inside, her eyes widening at the sight. The room was filled with peculiar machinery, blinking lights, and devices that hummed at various frequencies, each one more astonishing than the last. A central console pulsated with a soft, green light, and she could hear a low, almost rhythmic sound, a heartbeat of sorts, emanating from the equipment. As Maria stepped further in, she felt a surge of exhilaration. This was unlike anything she had encountered in her years of cleaning. She wiped her hands on her jumpsuit and moved closer to examine a peculiar device that looked eerily like a cross between a holographic projector and a plant. But as she reached out to touch it, an alarming sound erupted, a series of beeps and whirs that sent jolts of panic through her body. The device emitted a bright flash, and Maria instinctively flinched, drawing back her hand. "Whoa! What's going on?" she gasped, her voice echoing against the metallic walls. Suddenly, the console shifted, revealing intricate patterns of light that danced across its surface. She squinted, trying to decipher the symbols flashing in front of her. They seemed almost alive, swirling and morphing. Maria's heart raced as she fought the urge to flee. Instead, she felt her innate curiosity pulling her closer. "Maybe I can fix it," she whispered to herself, recalling her high school days of tinkering with electronics back on Earth. Those memories ignited a spark of confidence. She grabbed a nearby maintenance tool, a compact screwdriver with a glowing handle, and approached the console again. As she began to poke and prod, the sounds grew more frantic, each beep echoing her increasing anxiety. "What does this even do?" she challenged the device, feeling a strange connection to the alien technology. To her surprise, the lights began to stabilize. She twisted the screwdriver and pressed a few buttons that hummed beneath her fingers. The console responded, a series of lights flickered in sequence, and the alarming noise quieted to a gentle purr. Did I just fix it?" Maria's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and excitement flooding her system. "I can't believe I did that." Just then, a voice startled her from behind. What an impressive feat for a human janitor. Maria spun around to find a tall alien standing in the doorway. Its skin was an iridescent blue, reflecting the light of the corridor in mesmerizing patterns. Three eyes blinked at her with what she could only describe as awe and amusement. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude," Maria stammered, her heart racing, partly from the shock of having been caught, but mostly from the alien's striking appearance. "I was just cleaning, but I saw something malfunctioning and—" "Your instincts are commendable," the alien interrupted, stepping into the room. "That device is part of our central communication system. It has malfunctioned for weeks. You have solved a problem that has stumped many." Maria's cheeks flushed with pride. Thanks. I just did what I thought I should." The alien tilted its head, a gesture that reminded Maria of a curious dog back on Earth. "Your species' instinct for problem-solving intrigues me. I am Zephyr, a technician of sorts among my people." Maria blinked, her mind racing. "Zephyr? That's a cool name. I'm Maria, just a janitor here, just trying to keep everything clean." "Your position belies your capacity," Zephyr said, glancing at the now stable device. "How did you deduce the solution?" "Most beings rely on their programmed logic or advanced tools. I guess. I grew up fixing things at home," she replied, shrugging slightly as confidence began to replace her uncertainty. "Sometimes you just need to look at it from a different angle, Perspective," Zephyr echoed, nodding thoughtfully. A rare quality many tend to overlook. Maria felt a warmth in her chest. This encounter was something that would break the monotony of her daily routine. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. But before she could ask more, Zephyr's expression shifted, urgency creeping into its tone. "If this device remains functional, our communication with nearby star systems will resume. However, there is much more to address within this station. Would you consider assisting me further? Wait, you want my help? She asked, a mixture of disbelief and excitement bubbling within her. Indeed, your problem-solving skills are astonishing. Together, we can ensure the seamless functioning of the station. Maria stared at the alien, visions of her mundane life fading away like the last remnants of light at twilight. An adventure awaited her, one that would take her far beyond the confines of her cleaning cart and into the unknown. Okay, she said, stepping forward. Let's do it. And with that simple agreement, she felt the threads of her ordinary existence unraveling, giving way to a tapestry of possibilities woven through the cosmos. She had only intended to clean, but now, as she stood beside Zephyr, she wondered just how deep the rabbit hole would go. Maria's heart raced as she faced Zektar, the tall alien who had just entered the room. His iridescent blue skin shimmered under the flickering lights, casting a strange yet captivating glow. The movement of his three eyes, blinking in unison, made him appear both curious and concerned. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to intrude, Maria stammered, still clutching the glowing screwdriver. I was just, fixing your device? Zektar tilted his head, the patterns on his skin shifting like a psychedelic wave. Impressive, he said, his voice smooth yet resonant, like a gentle hum vibrating through the air. This transport device is crucial for the distribution station. Without it, my work, and that of many others, will come to a halt. The urgency in his tone struck Maria. Transport device? What does it do exactly? Zektar stepped inside the room, his demeanor shifting from alarm to a more relaxed curiosity. It allows for the immediate transfer of goods across the galaxy. There are various species waiting for their supplies. If this device fails, it affects not only my job but the welfare of entire communities relying on those deliveries. Maria looked at the machine, its colorful lights now steady thanks to her earlier tinkering. I didn't realize it was that important, she admitted, feeling a twinge of guilt. She had only wanted to explore, but now she understood she had stumbled into something much bigger than herself. You have a talent for this, Zektar said, his tone encouraging. Most would have panicked or fled, but you engaged with it. His eyes narrowed slightly. Are you not afraid of what you do not understand? Maria shrugged, a slight laugh escaping her lips. I guess I've always had a bit of a reckless side. Back on Earth, I used to take my dad's old gadgets apart just to see how they worked. Sometimes I could fix them, but other times, well, let's just say my dad didn't appreciate the broken appliances littering the garage. Zektar's eyes flickered with interest. Your father sounds like a patient being. Many do not understand the value of hands-on experience. Maria felt a warmth in her chest at his remark. He taught me that it's okay to fail as long as you keep trying. She smiled, a sense of camaraderie developing between them. So, what's wrong with this thing? Zektar gestured to the console, where a series of buttons blinked erratically. It has malfunctioned during a recent shipment. I suspect a component within has burned out. But I am unfamiliar with your human technology. Our tools are different. Do you have a manual or anything? Maria asked, stepping forward to examine the console more closely. Maybe we can work together on this. Zektar looked taken aback for a moment before nodding slowly. I possess a schematic. He pulled a small device from a pocket in his jumpsuit, and a holographic image flickered into existence above it. It displayed an intricate diagram of the transport device, filled with annotations in a script Maria couldn't read. Can you understand it? He asked, a hint of hope tinging his voice. She squinted at the floating hologram, her mind racing. Not really, but I think if we can identify the parts, I might be able to help. As they studied the diagram, Maria pointed to one section that looked unfamiliar. What's this part here? Zektar leaned closer, his three eyes narrowing at the image. That is the pulsar chamber. It is essential for stabilizing energy flow. Sounds important, Maria said, noting the intricate wiring and glowing sections. If it's burned out, can we replace it? Do you have a spare? Zektar paused, the worry in his eyes returning. We do, but the components are located in a secure area of the station. I may not be able to retrieve them without authorization. Then, let's get authorization, Maria suggested with a determined grin. I can help you get it. What do we need to do? Zektar hesitated, as if weighing the gravity of her offer. It is unorthodox for a janitor to request access in such a manner. You would need to convince the supervisor. Leave that to me, she said with confidence. I've dealt with my fair share of stubborn bosses. I'll make it sound like a matter of urgency. Zektar's demeanor softened, and for the first time, he smiled, a small, genuine curve of his lips. Then let us proceed. Perhaps this collaboration will prove beneficial. They made their way back into the bustling corridor, the sounds of the station enveloping them once more. Maria felt a thrill of excitement coursing through her veins. She was no longer just a janitor, she was part of something significant, something that could change the course of the day for Zektar and his community. As they approached the supervisor's office, Maria took a deep breath, remembering her father's advice. Just speak from the heart, she whispered to herself. Zektar stepped beside her, his presence reassuring. You possess the courage I admire. We will face this together. Maria nodded, feeling a sense of kinship with the alien father. They entered the office, the air thick with tension as the supervisor looked up from a stack of reports, his expression shifting from annoyance to surprise. What do you want? He grumbled, clearly not in the mood for interruptions. Sir, Maria began, her voice steady. We have a critical situation with the transport device in the maintenance bay. It's essential for our operations, and we need to retrieve parts from the secure area immediately. The supervisor's brow furrowed, skepticism written all over his face. And who exactly are you to make such a request? I'm Maria Santos, janitor, but I've been working with Zektar here, she said, gesturing towards the alien beside her. He's explained the significance of the transport device, and I believe I can help fix it. But we need access to the necessary components. Zektar added, the malfunction jeopardizes multiple species depending on the station. It is imperative we act swiftly. The supervisor hesitated, caught between the urgency of their plea and his own reluctance to bend the rules. Maria could see the gears turning in his mind, and she felt a growing tension in the air. This is a risk, he finally said, looking between the two of them. If we authorize this and it falls through, I'll be held accountable. Then give us a chance, Maria urged. If we fail, I'll take full responsibility. The supervisor studied her, his expression softening slightly. After what felt like an eternity, he sighed. Fine, but you better make this count. I'll grant you access, but if I hear any complaints. Thank you, sir, Maria exclaimed, relief flooding her. Zektar nodded appreciatively. We will not disappoint. As they exited the office, Maria couldn't suppress her smile. We did it. Now, let's get that part and save the day. Zektar's eyes sparkled with gratitude. You have proven yourself not just as a janitor but as a valuable ally. Together, they ventured deeper into the station, their fates intertwined, a janitor and an alien father working to bridge the gap between their worlds. The transport device awaited their intervention, and with it, the hopes of many. Maria could feel the tension between them, the chasm of experience and technology lying wide and deep. Zektar's gaze bore into her, three eyes swirling with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. It is unconventional to seek authorization for such repairs, he said slowly, weighing his words. Humans often prefer to act independently, ignoring protocols. Look, Zektar, Maria replied with a determined nod, I understand that your technology is advanced, but I've learned a thing or two about fixing things. Sometimes, you just need to think outside the box. If we can get the parts, I'm confident I can help you fix this. Zektar studied her for a moment, his eyes flickering with indecision. Finally, he sighed. Very well. We will attempt this together. But should anything go awry, I will take full responsibility for this unconventional approach. Maria smiled, a thrill of excitement coursing through her veins. All right, let's do this. She glanced at the holographic schematic again, her heart racing with the prospect of diving into this challenge. Where do we go for the authorization? We will need to head to the central command hub, Zektar explained, gesturing for her to follow. I will have to request permission directly from Grix, the station's chief technician. He is rigid in his ways. Rigid? Maria echoed, recalling how the term described certain managers back on Earth. Sounds like someone who could use a bit of flexibility. Zektar chuckled softly, the sound surprising both of them. You may be right, but do not underestimate his authority. He led the way down a bustling corridor. The sounds of chatter and the whir of machinery enveloped them, a stark reminder of the continuous pulse of life around the station. As they navigated the throng of beings, aliens mingling, laughter mingling with the hum of technology, Maria felt a sense of empowerment. This was a challenge she was ready to tackle, a chance to prove that her skills, though honed in a simpler world, held value even in this futuristic realm. They reached the command hub, a large circular room filled with screens displaying various data feeds and glowing graphs. The walls pulsed with light, and the air felt thick with anticipation. Grix, a stocky alien with thickly muscled limbs and a stern expression, sat at the central console, typing furiously. Grix, Zektar began, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. I require authorization to retrieve components for the pulsar chamber. It has malfunctioned, and we need it to stabilize the transport device. Grix looked up, his brow furrowing. And you think I should allow you to take parts from our secure storage? For a problem that you have yet to diagnose fully? His voice was low, but it carried a weight that made Maria's stomach twist. Zektar stood firm. I believe we have a solution. Maria has a unique perspective on repairs, Maria? Grix interrupted, eyeing her with skepticism. You mean the janitor? What could she possibly know about our technology? Maria felt her cheeks heat up. Well, actually, she began, but Zektar cut her off with an intense look. She has proven herself resourceful, he insisted, glancing back at her, urging her on. Her insight may provide us with a solution that we have not considered. Resourceful? Grix echoed, his tone laced with doubt. She's a human janitor in a galactic distribution station. What makes you think her methods won't damage our equipment? Because I've fixed plenty of things back on Earth, Maria interjected, stepping forward, her voice steadier than she felt. Sometimes, the simplest solutions can outsmart the most complex technologies. I know it sounds crazy, but I can help. Grix studied her, his expression hardening. Prove it, he said finally. Create a plan. If your ideas align with standard procedures, I'll reconsider authorizing the retrieval. Maria's heart sank slightly, but she nodded, determination surging through her. Absolutely, she replied, her mind racing. I'll outline exactly what we need to do and how we can execute the repair without damaging your systems. As they moved away from Grix, Zektar turned to Maria with a gleam of hope in his eyes. You handled that well, but we need to think quickly. Grix expects results, and we cannot let him down. Let's brainstorm, Maria said, glancing around the command hub for inspiration. What do we know about the pulsar chamber? If we can understand it better, maybe we can devise a plan that fits within their protocols. Zektar nodded, pulling out the holographic schematic again. We need to analyze the components and their interactions. If we can map out a straightforward replacement process, Grix may allow it. As they worked together, Maria began to appreciate her own skills and experiences more deeply. She pointed at various parts of the hologram, relating them to the devices she'd repaired back home. Look here, she said, her excitement bubbling. This section is similar to a capacitor in the old radios. If we replace it with the spare and bypass it correctly, it should stabilize the energy flow. Zektar's eyes widened, reflecting a flicker of realization. Your analog knowledge is valuable, Maria. I see how this could work. What do you think Grix will think of this? She asked, biting her lip, a wave of uncertainty washing over her. Zektar hesitated, then replied, he will likely be resistant, but if we present our plan clearly, showing its validity, he may yield. His voice lowered. But we must be prepared for his skepticism. Maria felt a rush of confidence as they drafted their proposal. With each new detail, her understanding of the transport device deepened, and she could feel Zektar's respect growing. They were no longer just an alien and a janitor, they were collaborators, united by a shared goal. As they finalized their plan, Maria's heart raced with both excitement and anxiety. She was venturing into uncharted territory, navigating a world far beyond her own. Would Grix respond positively? Would they succeed in retrieving the parts? When they stepped back into the command center, Maria felt a mixture of fear and hope. If they could convince Grix, it might not just save Zektar's job, it could also redefine her own place in this extraordinary universe. Maria took a deep breath, her heart pounding in anticipation as they entered the command hub. The room buzzed with the electric hum of technology and the soft beeping of consoles. She felt a flicker of hope. This was her moment to prove herself. Grix's skeptical gaze bore down on her, but she pushed the thought aside. Instead, her focus shifted to the vast array of screens, each displaying an intricate web of data. All right, Zektar, she said, her voice steady. Let's create that plan. As they approached Grix's console, the air thickened with tension. Zektar began outlining the malfunction in the pulsar chamber, detailing the systems that required immediate attention. Maria listened intently, her mind racing with ideas. The way the alien spoke about the technology fascinated her, but she sensed Grix's impatience. Let's move quickly, Grix urged, fingers tapping impatiently on the console. We can't afford delays. Critical shipments are at stake. Right, Maria replied, her mind racing back to her days of troubleshooting back on Earth. If we can bypass the primary relay, we can redirect power temporarily. I've done similar things when the power went out in my neighborhood. Zektar raised an eyebrow. Bypass the relay? That is unconventional? Maria interjected, a playful smile breaking through her nervousness. I'm getting the hang of your lingo. Humor is not my strong suit, but I see merit in your experience, Zektar said, a hint of admiration creeping into his voice. Before they could delve deeper into their planning, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into dimness. An urgent alarm blared, cutting through the air like a knife. Grix's expression turned from skepticism to alarm, his brow furrowing. What's happening? Maria asked, her heart racing. Power outage detected in Sector 3, Grix snapped, his fingers flying over the console. This could jeopardize the shipment schedule. Not just the shipments, Zektar added, his tone grave. If the power isn't restored quickly, the entire station's operational systems could fail. We need to act fast. Maria felt panic twist in her stomach. What do we do? Grix's eyes narrowed, assessing the situation. We can't wait for the primary systems to reboot. We need a manual override. Zektar, I want you to assist me. Maria, you will have to stay here, she finished, the disappointment flooding her voice. No, Grix said, surprising her. You will assist Zektar. You have knowledge of improvisation that may be crucial right now. Zektar nodded, clearly trusting her instincts more than he had moments before. We'll need to reach the power core in the reactor room. Follow my lead. Maria felt a rush of adrenaline. Let's go. As they navigated the corridors, the distinct sounds of the station became more pronounced. The metallic clang of doors sealing, the distant hum of machinery struggling to maintain functionality, and the worried chatter of station personnel filled the air. It was a chaotic symphony that made her heart race. Are there other power issues? Maria asked, trying to keep her focus. Several, Zektar replied, glancing at her. Our systems are integrated in a way that overlooks human ingenuity? Maria suggested, feeling her confidence rising. Precisely, Zektar said, a hint of a smile playing at the edges of his mouth. Your perspective is becoming invaluable. They reached the reactor room, its entrance sealed with a heavy metallic door that hummed with energy. Grix approached the control panel and input a series of commands, but the door remained locked. It's not responding, he growled, his frustration bubbling to the surface. Let me try, Maria said, stepping forward. She placed her hand on the panel, recalling the numerous times she had jimmied open stubborn doors back on Earth. Sometimes, a little finesse is all it takes. She took a deep breath, focusing on the sounds around her, the whir of machinery, the faint thump of her heart, the tension in the air. With a quick glance at Zektar, who nodded encouragement, she began tapping on the panel in a rhythmic pattern, mimicking the way she would tune an old radio. There was a moment of silence, and then the door clicked open with a hiss. Maria's heart leapt. See? Easy. Grix blinked, momentarily speechless. How did you? Just a bit of intuition, she said with a grin. After all, sometimes it's the simplest methods that work best. Inside the reactor room, the low hum of energy filled the air, and the light glowed with an otherworldly hue. Panels lined the walls, and the heart of the station pulsed rhythmically in the center. We need to access the main power junction, Zektar directed, pointing. It's just beyond that panel. As they approached, the lights flickered again, and the hum of the reactor intensified. Maria felt a rush of urgency. We don't have much time. Together, they pried open the panel, revealing a complex web of wires and circuits. Zektar began analyzing the layout, but Maria couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the complexity of it all. Can you see anything wrong? She asked, trying to keep the panic at bay. It's not just a power issue, Zektar replied, brow furrowed. There's a deeper malfunction. That relay you mentioned earlier may be at fault. I can work on that. Just show me which wire to disconnect, Maria offered, taking a step closer. As Zektar explained the intricacies of the connections, Maria felt herself falling into a rhythm, her hands moving instinctively as she recalled her past experiences. She focused on the task at hand, the adrenaline pushing her forward. Disconnect that red wire, Zektar instructed sharply, but do it cautiously. Maria's fingers trembled slightly as she followed his command, feeling the weight of their mission pressing down on her. The power outage was threatening to unravel everything, and she couldn't afford to fail now. With a swift motion, she disconnected the wire, and the reactor emitted a low whirring sound. Did it work? Zektar's eyes widened, and a flicker of hope ignited in his expression. Let's see. The lights flickered again, this time stabilizing into a steady glow. The hum of the reactor intensified, and the atmosphere shifted from panic to cautious optimism. Grix, Zektar called out, a hint of excitement in his voice. Check the main systems. Grix rushed to the console, his fingers flying over the controls. We've stabilized the reactor. The shipments can proceed. Maria felt a rush of triumph, her heart soaring. Zektar turned to her, his expression earnest. You did well, Maria. I underestimated your capabilities. The words warmed her heart, and she couldn't help but smile. Glad to hear it. But this isn't just about fixing wires. There's more going on here. More? Grix asked, his voice suddenly serious. Yes, Maria said, glancing between the two aliens. If the power outage is a symptom, we need to dig deeper. What else could be causing these disruptions? Zektar nodded, the weight of her insight sinking in. Perhaps there are systemic issues we need to address. This is only the beginning. As they stepped back from the reactor, the reality of their situation settled in. The urgency of their task had revealed not just a malfunction but a deeper connection between them, a shared purpose that transcended their differences. Let's figure this out together, Maria said, determination igniting within her. We can't just fix things on the surface. Grix exchanged a glance with Zektar, and for the first time, there was a glimmer of shared understanding in his eyes. Then let's begin. As they prepared to dive into the complexities that lay beyond the reactor, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something transformative, not just for the station, but for themselves as well. Maria focused on the panel, her fingers dancing over the controls as she recalled her childhood lessons in improvisation. "If I can just manipulate these circuits," she muttered under her breath, "I might be able to create a temporary bypass." The urgency in the air was palpable, and she could feel Grix's eyes boring into her back. "Are you going to do something, or stand there contemplating the universe?" Grix snapped, his frustration evident. "Just give me a moment," Maria replied, her heart racing. She took a deep breath and began to assess the components in front of her. "We can't just rely on the systems as they are. There's got to be something we can use." Zektar moved closer, observing her with keen interest. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice steady. "The wiring here is old," Maria pointed out, tracing her finger along a cluster of cables running beneath the panel. "If we can tap into the auxiliary power grid instead of the main system, we might be able to restore enough energy to get this door open." "Auxiliary?" Grix echoed, his skepticism returning. "That's not going to hold." Maria's confidence surged. "It might not be permanent, but it'll be enough to get us through. Trust me, I've improvised before." She reached for a nearby toolbox, finding a couple of tools that looked as though they had seen better days. Picking up a pair of rusted wire cutters, she began snipping away at the cables, her heart hammering in her chest. Just a little finesse, she reminded herself, replicating the methods she used when fixing old appliances back home. "Is this wise?" Zektar asked, his voice laced with concern. Maria didn't look up as she continued her work. "Sometimes you have to take risks to make progress." With a swift motion, she stripped the wires she had cut, carefully twisting them together to create a makeshift connection. Zektar watched, his brow furrowed as he tried to comprehend her approach. "Your methods are unconventional," he admitted, a note of admiration creeping into his voice. "Unconventional is my middle name," Maria quipped. "Now, let's see if this works." Taking a deep breath, she pressed a small switch she had uncovered, sending a jolt of energy through the makeshift connection. The panel buzzed to life, and the door slid open with an ominous groan. Grix's jaw dropped. "How did you do that?" "A little human ingenuity," Maria replied, her heart swelling with pride. The moment felt electric, the thrill of success coursing through her veins. "Impressive, Maria," Zektar said, his tone shifting to one of genuine respect. "You've bridged a gap I didn't believe possible." "Let's not celebrate just yet," Grix interjected, stepping through the threshold cautiously. "We need to restore full power before we can breathe easy." As they entered the reactor room, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The walls glowed with a soft azure light, and the steady thrum of energy filled the air. An array of complex machinery hummed around them, each piece of technology intricate and mesmerizing. "Where do we start?" Maria asked, her curiosity piqued by the alien technology surrounding her. "Over there," Zektar pointed towards a large console at the far end of the room. "We need to restore the power flow to the primary systems." Grix moved ahead, his expression a mix of urgency and determination. "We don't have time to waste. Let's get this place running again." Maria felt the adrenaline surge through her as they approached the console. "I can help with that," she exclaimed, stepping up beside Zektar. "This is just like troubleshooting a malfunctioning circuit back home." "Malfunctioning?" Grix echoed, his tone skeptical yet curious. "Yes," she said, her excitement bubbling over. "Everything is connected in a way that can sometimes be counterintuitive. If something fails, it can have a cascading effect on other systems." She glanced at Zektar, who was nodding in understanding. "We just need to isolate the issue and reroute the power." As Maria began inputting commands, she felt the tension between her and Grix begin to thaw. "You've surprised me," Grix admitted, his earlier skepticism fading. "But can you really make this work?" "Trust me," she said confidently. "I've faced worse back on Earth." The atmosphere shifted again as the console lit up, indicators blinking with renewed life. Maria's heart raced as she felt a rush of empowerment. She was no longer just a cleaner, she was an integral part of this operation. "I need to reroute the main energy flow," she instructed Zektar. "Can you help with the calculations?" "Of course," he replied, his eyes glowing with interest. "Your perspective is invaluable." They worked in tandem, Maria's fingers flying over the console while Zektar calculated potential outcomes. For the first time, she felt a sense of belonging. "Almost there," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. "Just a few more adjustments." Suddenly, the alarms blared again, blinding red lights flashing overhead. "What's happening?" Grix shouted, his frustration mounting. "The systems are reacting to our changes," Zektar exclaimed, his three eyes flaring in alarm. "We need to stabilize the energy output or risk a meltdown." "Focus, everyone," Maria called, her heart pounding. Zektar, can you stabilize the reactor's core output? Affirmative, he said, his expression serious. Grix, help me reroute the energy flow. We need to balance the systems quickly. As they worked furiously, Maria felt the weight of their trust resting on her shoulders. Come on, she whispered, her fingers flying over the controls. With a final adjustment, the alarm silenced, and the room was filled with a soothing hum. The lights returned to normal, and the console indicators shifted to green. Did we do it? Grix asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Maria blinked, hardly believing what had just happened. I think we did. Zektar turned to her, his eyes wide with astonishment. Your approach was extraordinary. Maria felt a rush of warmth flood through her. Thanks, she said, a shy smile creeping onto her face. It was a team effort. But even as they celebrated their success, a lingering doubt crept into Maria's mind. Would this newfound respect be enough to bridge the gap created by their differences? The partnership they had forged felt fragile, and she couldn't shake the feeling that deeper challenges lay ahead. Let's report back to command, Grix said, breaking the moment. Maria nodded, her mind racing with the implications of what lay ahead. They were united for now, but the real test awaited them down the line. As they exited the reactor room, the air felt charged with possibility, but Maria couldn't ignore the whisper of uncertainty echoing in her mind. The journey was far from over. As the door slid open, Maria stepped into the reactor room, the low hum of machinery enveloping her like a blanket. The walls pulsed with a soft azure glow, illuminating the intricate designs of alien technology. Despite the urgency of their situation, she felt a thrill of discovery course through her. This was not just about survival, it was also about understanding. All right, let's figure this out, Maria said, her voice steady. She approached the large console Zektar had pointed to earlier, her mind buzzing with possibilities. Be cautious, Zektar warned, moving closer to her side. This technology is vastly different from what you are accustomed to. I know, Maria replied, her fingers grazing the console's surface, feeling the cool texture beneath her touch. But I've repaired plenty of machines back home that seemed more complex than they really were. She glanced at Zektar, who remained silent but attentive. Suddenly, an alert rang through the room, a sharp, insistent beeping that broke the momentary calm. Grix swore under his breath, his eyes narrowing. What now? He barked, tapping furiously at another console. Looks like a shipment delay, Grix said, his frustration simmering. The supplies we ordered to stabilize the reactor are late. If we don't get them soon, the whole station could go into lockdown. That would jeopardize the deal with my people. Maria felt the weight of his words sink in. What deal? She asked, her curiosity piqued. Zektar took a deep breath before responding, his voice heavy with emotion. It's not just about the reactor. This shipment contains vital resources for my community. If we fail to secure this deal, it could lead to shortages of essential supplies, food, medical equipment. My family, they rely on this. The sincerity in Zektar's voice struck a chord within Maria. She had always been one to fight for those she cared about, and now, she felt an overwhelming urge to help him. Okay, she said, her determination solidifying. Let's figure out how to fix this. Grix shot them both a skeptical glance. You really think you can fix this? Watch me, Maria replied, her heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. She turned back to the console, her fingers dancing over the controls once more. What do we need to do to locate the shipment? Zektar leaned over her shoulder, his three eyes wide with focus. If we can access the distribution network, we can track its progress. However, the network is locked down due to technical issues. Leave it to me, Maria said, her confidence surging. She began typing away, her mind racing as she recalled the troubleshooting techniques she had learned in her years of fixing machines. Let's see if I can reroute the mainframe connections. She leaned in closer, her brow furrowing in concentration as she worked through the numerous commands flashing on the screen. Grix watched, arms crossed, his skepticism unwavering. You really believe you can get us access? You're not even a technician. I'm not, Maria admitted, but I can think outside the box. As she continued to manipulate the console, Zektar's presence was a steady comfort. What you are doing, it is unconventional, he said, his tone a mix of admiration and confusion. Maria flashed him a grin. That's my specialty. She felt a connection growing between them, a bond forged through shared necessity. Suddenly, the console emitted a sharp ping, and a stream of data flooded the screen. Maria's heart raced as she scanned the information. Got it. I can see the shipment's last known location. It was diverted to a secondary hub. We need to get there before it's too late. Where is this hub? Grix asked, his demeanor shifting slightly from skepticism to urgency. It's a few sectors away, Maria replied, her mind racing through the possibilities. If we leave now, we can make it. No, Zektar interrupted, his voice firm. We cannot abandon the reactor. If we don't stabilize it, we risk everything. Maria's heart sank. But if we don't get those supplies, you'll lose everything too, she pointed out, looking between the two of them. Grix sighed, rubbing his temples in frustration. Fine, we'll split up. Maria, you go with Sektar to retrieve the shipment. I'll stay here and manage the reactor. Are you sure? Maria asked, doubt creeping in. I can handle it. Just make sure you don't waste time. Grix's eyes softened for a moment, revealing a flicker of concern. We need to make this work. Okay, Maria said, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Let's go, Sektar. As they rushed toward the exit, Sektar glanced back at Grix. Thank you for trusting her. Grix nodded, though his expression remained serious. Be careful. Once outside, the vast corridors of the station opened up before them, the sounds of bustling life echoing in the background. Maria felt the adrenaline pumping through her veins as they raced against time. Do you often take risks like this? Sektar asked, his breath quickening alongside hers. Only when it counts, Maria replied, her eyes focused ahead. And this definitely counts. Sektar nodded, his expression contemplative. Your passion for your work, it is admirable. It reminds me of my own family. Maria felt something shift within her as they continued down the hall. What's your family like? She asked, trying to steer the conversation toward lighter topics. They are important, he said, his voice a mix of pride and longing. My children are curious, always exploring. They remind me of how to see the world with wonder. Sounds like you have a lot to live for, Maria replied, feeling a warmth spreading through her. Their shared struggles were beginning to weave a deeper connection between them. Yes, Sektar said, his three eyes locking onto hers with intensity. And it is worth fighting for. Just then, an alarm blared through the corridor, cutting through their moment. We need to hurry, Maria urged, her heart racing once more. They pushed forward, the stakes rising as they faced external pressures that loomed ahead. As they neared the transporter hub, Maria felt a resolve settle within her. Not only was this about saving Sektar's family, it was about establishing a bridge between their worlds, a bond that could transcend species. Whatever happens, she said, glancing at him, we'll face it together. Sektar nodded, his expression a mix of gratitude and determination. Together, with their resolve solidified, they pressed onward, ready to confront whatever challenges awaited them in the depths of the unknown. As the reactor room hummed with tension, Maria's focus sharpened. The urgency of the situation pressed down on her like the metallic weight of the air. She turned to Sektar, determination etched on her face. We can't just sit back. We need to stabilize this reactor, and we need to track that shipment. Together. Sektar nodded, his demeanor shifting from one of concern to one of shared purpose. We will need to convince Grix. He does not trust your methods, and we cannot afford dissent. Maria glanced towards Grix, who was still monitoring the consoles, his fingers a blur as he tapped commands. Yeah, he's not exactly a fan of my improvisation, she muttered, biting her lip. But I have to show him that we can work as a team. Suddenly, the loud clanging of metal echoed through the reactor room, and the air shifted. The doors burst open, revealing a group of aliens, not just any aliens, but members of a rival faction known for their advanced technology and cutthroat business practices. Their leader, a towering figure named Corvin, stepped forward, his presence radiating authority. Grix, Corvin called, his voice booming. I hear you're experiencing some difficulties here. Grix straightened, his face darkening. What do you want, Corvin? We're not in the mood for your games. Corvin smirked, his eyes glinting with malice. Oh, but this isn't a game. I've come to offer assistance. He gestured dramatically, as if unveiling a grand gift. Our technology is superior, and I believe I can help you stabilize your reactor. Perhaps even take over the deal with Sektar's people. Maria felt a surge of indignation. You think we need your help? We've got this under control, she said, stepping forward, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. Corvin's gaze shifted to her, an amused smile creeping onto his face. And who might you be, little human? A janitor, or do you fancy yourself an engineer? Her name is Maria Santos, Sektar interjected, standing protectively beside her. And she has already shown more competence than your entire faction. Really? Corvin's laughter echoed off the metal walls. Let's see how well she can handle an actual crisis. He stepped closer, his presence imposing. I challenge you, Maria. Show me how you would stabilize this reactor. The room fell silent, the weight of the challenge hanging in the air. Grix's expression was a mix of skepticism and intrigue, while Sektar's eyes flickered with concern. Maria took a deep breath. Fine, I'll show you. Her heart raced, but she felt the fire of determination ignite within her. This was her moment to advocate for herself and her methods. She approached the console, her fingers flying over the controls. The reactor is stabilized through a combination of cooling and power management, she explained, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. If I can reroute the energy flow and adjust the cooling systems, we can maintain equilibrium. Corvin crossed his arms, skepticism etched on his face. Go on then, impress me. As Maria worked, she could hear the murmurs from the rival faction behind her, their whispers filled with derision. Yet, she pushed through, recalling every lesson she had learned in her years of fixing machines. Each keystroke was filled with purpose, and the soft beeping of the console fueled her resolve. See, she said, glancing at Zektar, who nodded encouragingly. If I can just bypass the malfunctioning cooling vents. Suddenly, the console emitted a loud alarm, and a cascade of error messages filled the screen. Maria's heart dropped. What the flawed technology, Corvin interjected, a smirk on his lips. That's what happens when you rely on primitive methods. But Maria refused to give in. No, this is just a minor setback, she insisted, her fingers dancing across the console as she fought against the flood of errors. It's just a matter of adjusting the parameters. Your overconfidence is astounding, Corvin sneered, but Maria could see Grix's expression softening, if only slightly. Listen, Zektar said, stepping between Corvin and Maria. She's right. The reactor can be stabilized if we work together. Your methods have their flaws, too. I've seen your technology fail in the past. You don't know everything. At that moment, the air in the room shifted. Corvin's eyes narrowed as the tension grew palpable. You think your human friend can do better? Let's put it to the test. If she fails, I take over the deal with your people. If she succeeds, we'll offer our technology to aid your station. Maria's heart raced, but she knew this was a chance to prove herself, not just to Corvin, but to everyone in the room, including herself. All right, she said, her voice steady. Let's do this. With the stakes raised, Maria turned back to the console, channeling all her focus into the task at hand. I can do this, she whispered to herself, feeling the warmth of Zektar's presence beside her. I have to. As she manipulated the console, the alarms blaring started to quiet down. The data began to stabilize, and she felt a flicker of hope. I can see the cooling system's parameters adjusting. If I just, Maria. Zektar's voice cut through her concentration. The energy levels are spiking. You need to act fast. Maria's thoughts raced, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel Corvin's eyes on her, and the pressure made her pulse quicken. I'm on it, she shouted, adjusting the settings even faster. She could hear Grix's voice behind her, offering advice, and Zektar's encouraging presence kept her grounded. With one final keystroke, the console emitted a soft chime, and the reactor's hum shifted to a steadier rhythm. The alarms fell silent, and the azure glow of the walls brightened, signaling stability. I did it! Maria exclaimed, turning to face the room, elation flooding through her. The reactor is stable. Corvin's expression shifted from disbelief to grudging respect, while Grix looked impressed. Zektar beamed at her, pride evident in his three eyes. Impressive, Corvin said slowly, his tone begrudgingly admiring. But this is just one victory. Your methods will be scrutinized further. Let them scrutinize, Maria replied, her voice firm. I'm not afraid to stand by my work. I'm proud of what I accomplished here. The tension in the room shifted, and Maria felt a surge of confidence wash over her. She had proven herself not just to Corvin but to everyone present. And in that moment, she realized she had found her place in this strange new world. As the energy in the reactor stabilized, Maria felt an unbreakable bond form between her, Zektar, and Grix. They had faced a challenge together and emerged stronger. But as she glanced at Corvin, she knew this confrontation was only the beginning. The true test of their unity lay ahead, and they would face whatever came next together. Together, they would protect what mattered most. Maria leaned into the console, sweat trickling down her brow as she fought against the chaos unfolding around her. The reactor's alarms blared, and Corvin's mocking laughter echoed in her ears. Flawed technology, he'd sneered, but she could feel the simmering energy of her determination rising within her. This was more than just a challenge, it was a chance to prove herself. Zektar, I need your input on the energy flow, Maria shouted over the noise, her fingers navigating the console with increasing urgency. Each keystroke felt like a heartbeat, a rhythm of defiance against the looming threat of Corvin's faction. Zektar stepped closer, his three eyes scanning the data on the screen. If we redirect the main power output to the auxiliary cooling system, it could buy us some time, he suggested, his voice steady even amid the chaos. Exactly. But we need to stabilize the core first, or the energy surge could lead to a meltdown, she replied, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. Help me with the recalibrations on this panel. As Zektar joined her at the console, Maria could sense a shift in the atmosphere. Grix's skeptical gaze softened, his fingers pausing momentarily on the keyboard. Perhaps he was beginning to see the potential in their collaboration. Your plan may actually work, Grix said, his voice a low murmur, almost to himself as he observed the two working in sync. The tension in the room began to evaporate slightly as they focused on the task at hand. Focus, Maria, Zektar instructed, pointing to an array of flashing lights.
You need to adjust the cooling settings before we reroute the energy. I'm on it.
Maria felt the adrenaline coursing through her veins, pushing her forward as she adjusted the parameters. The beeping of the alarms transformed from frantic screeches to a more rhythmic pulse, signaling that they were on the right track.
Corvin's amusement turned to irritation as he watched them work.
This is futile. You're merely delaying the inevitable, he called out, crossing his arms.
Why not accept my offer? My technology would solve all your problems instantly.
Maria shot him a defiant glare, her resolve hardening. Your technology may be advanced, but it's not a substitute for ingenuity and teamwork, she shouted back, her voice echoing off the reactor walls.
We're doing just fine without you.
With a deep breath, Maria pressed a sequence of commands into the console, her fingers moving swiftly. Here goes nothing, she muttered.
The reactor emitted a low hum, vibrating through the room as she executed the changes.
The alarms quieted momentarily, and a wave of hope surged within her. But then, the console flickered ominously. A cascade of error messages flooded the screen once again. Panic gripped her heart.
No, not again. Zektar's reassuring presence bolstered her confidence. We can fix this, Maria. Focus on the parameters, not the failures.
Right. Maria took a deep breath, pushing aside the fear as she examined the errors flashing on the console.
Let's try recalibrating the power levels in the primary cooling system first.
Corvin stepped forward, frustration evident in his demeanor.
You're wasting time. Accept my help, and I'll stabilize this reactor in minutes. You're out of your depth.
No, Zektar interjected, a sudden intensity in his voice.
Maria is not out of her depth.
She has already proven her worth.
Let her finish.
Maria felt a swell of gratitude towards Zektar, a warmth spreading through her as she realized he believed in her. She turned back to the console, her fingers flying over the keys.
Okay, Zektar, let's do this together. Redirect the flow to maximize cooling efficiency while minimizing energy loss, Zektar instructed, his voice calm amidst the rising tension. We can use the reactor's own systems against it.
With renewed determination, Maria adjusted the settings, her heart racing as she executed the commands.
The reactor let out a soft whir, the alarms fading into a low hum.
I think it's working, she exclaimed, glancing at Zektar.
We might just pull this off.
As the energy levels stabilized, Corvin's expression shifted from smugness to disbelief. What kind of trickery is this? He demanded, taking a step back, his confidence waning. Not trickery, just hard work and collaboration, Maria shot back, her voice filled with pride.
It's called teamwork. Suddenly, the lights above flickered, bathing the room in an otherworldly glow. The reactor thrummed steadily now, the chaos of the alarms replaced by a reassuring hum.
Maria took a step back, breathless, as she felt the energy of the room shift.
Grix's eyes widened, a look of astonishment crossing his face. It's stabilized, he murmured, disbelief lacing his tone. How did you? Maria couldn't help but smile. Just a little human ingenuity, she replied, turning to Zektar, who looked at her with newfound respect and admiration.
Corvin, still reeling, took a step forward, his bravado deflating.
Perhaps I underestimated you, little human, he said begrudgingly. The reactor is stable, but the real question is, what now? Now, Zektar replied, his voice strong, we have a choice to make. We can either continue this rivalry or join forces to strengthen our alliance. Together, we can face threats far greater than our petty disputes.
A silence enveloped the room, the weight of Zektar's words settling over them.
Maria watched as the conflict in the room transformed into something new. Grix seemed to consider the proposal thoughtfully, glancing between Maria and Corvin. Perhaps we can negotiate a truce, Grix finally said, breaking the tension.
We can work together to ensure that this station becomes a hub for all species, not just a battleground for power. Maria felt her heart lift at the prospect. Let's build something better together, she said, glancing at Zektar, who nodded in agreement. As Corvin's expression shifted to one of reluctant acceptance, Maria realized that this moment was more than a victory over a rival faction. It was the beginning of a new alliance, a new chapter in her life on this station. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the air felt lighter, charged with the potential of what lay ahead. Maria could finally see a place for herself in this galaxy, a future intertwined with Zektar and the diverse beings who had once felt so foreign to her. As peace settled over the reactor room, Maria took a moment to breathe deeply, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She had faced challenges, embraced her creativity, and forged unexpected bonds. Yet, the bigger question lingered in her mind. What would her role be in this new world? Would she stay and continue to help build a brighter future for all? The future, once uncertain, now sparkled with possibility, one she was eager to explore. Maria felt a rush of energy surge through her as the reactor responded to her commands. The alarms, once a cacophony of chaos, transformed into a steady hum, a sound of potential rather than peril.
She exchanged a glance with Zektar, whose three eyes sparkled with a mix of relief and admiration. In that moment, the weight of their collaboration settled between them, binding them closer as allies.
Now, let's stabilize the core, Maria instructed, her fingers flying across the console.
We need to lock in the energy output and prevent any surges.
Zektar nodded vigorously.
Agreed.
I'll monitor the energy fluctuations. If they spike again, we'll need to. Suddenly, the room shook violently, and a loud alarm blared once more. The lights flickered, casting shadows that danced ominously across the walls.
Maria's heart sank.
What now? She gasped, her breath hitching in her throat.
Corvin's faction must be trying to override our systems.
Grix shouted, his voice strained.
They're attempting to take control of the reactor. Focus on your panel.
Zektar urged, his voice steadying her fraying nerves.
We can't let them succeed.
Maria gritted her teeth, forcing herself to concentrate. I need to initiate a lockdown on the reactor, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil around them.
It'll prevent any external access. Do it,
Grix commanded, his fingers a blur on the console.
We'll hold them off. As Maria tapped in the lockdown sequence, a wave of determination washed over her.
She could feel the respect from Zektar and Grix, the acknowledgement of her role in this critical moment. She wasn't just a janitor anymore, she was a vital part of their team, someone who could make a difference.
The console beeped in affirmation, and the reactor's systems began to lock down.
The alarms quieted, replaced by a reassuring hum as the energy stabilized. It's working, Maria exclaimed, a smile breaking across her face. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. The door to the reactor room slammed open, and Corvin stormed in, flanked by his followers.
You think you can outsmart me?
He spat, his voice dripping with contempt.
This station belongs to us. Not if we can help it, Grix replied, stepping forward defiantly. Maria has proven her worth today. You underestimate her.
Corvin scoffed, his eyes narrowing as he looked between Maria and Zektar.
You think a mere human can stand against our technology? You're deluded. Deluded?
Maria echoed, feeling the fire of conviction ignite within her.
I've learned more about teamwork and ingenuity in this short time than you could understand in a lifetime.
Your technology may be advanced, but it lacks the heart that we have.
Zektar placed a hand on Maria's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity that bolstered her confidence. Together, we are stronger. We will not let you take control. Corvin's expression twisted with rage. Then you will all face the consequences.
He raised his hand, and a flash of energy crackled between his fingers.
In that instant, Maria's instincts kicked in.
She lunged forward, grabbing a nearby tool, a heavy wrench, and hurled it at Corvin. The tool struck his wrist, causing him to drop the energy ball, which exploded harmlessly against the wall.
Now, Grix shouted, rallying their efforts. We need to contain him.
With Zektar's assistance, they quickly moved to restrain Corvin and his followers, leveraging the advanced technology of the station against them.
Within moments, they had the intruders cornered, their power stripped away. As the dust settled, Maria turned to Zektar and Grix, a wave of relief washing over her.
We did it, she breathed, her heart racing from the adrenaline.
Indeed, we did, Zektar replied, his tone warm. But this victory is just the beginning.
With Corvin and his faction subdued, the atmosphere shifted. The other beings of the station, who had watched the confrontation unfold, began to murmur among themselves. Maria could feel their gazes on her, a mix of awe and respect that made her chest swell with pride. Maria, Grix said, breaking through her reverie, you've earned a place here.
We need someone like you as a liaison between our species. Your perspective is invaluable. Maria blinked, the enormity of his words sinking in. You mean, stay here? For good?
Yes, Zektar chimed in, his voice filled with sincerity. Your skills and insights could help bridge the gap between our worlds.
You've shown us that collaboration is key.
Emotions swirled within Maria: excitement, fear, and an overwhelming sense of belonging. She had come to this station as a humble janitor, but now she stood on the brink of something extraordinary. Of course, I'll stay, she said, her voice steady.
I want to help build a future where we can all thrive together.
Cheers erupted from the crowd that had gathered, voices blending into a harmonious chorus. Maria felt a rush of warmth as she looked around, seeing the faces of her new friends and allies. They were no longer just aliens to her, they were family. As the celebration began, Maria found herself standing beside Zektar, their bond stronger than ever. Thank you for believing in me, she said softly, her heart full. Thank you for believing in yourself, Zektar replied, his expression genuine. In that moment, Maria knew she had found her place, not just as a cleaner of the station, but as a vital part of a community that transcended the stars. Together, they would face the challenges ahead, united in purpose and friendship. The future was bright, and Maria was ready to embrace it, one challenge at a time.